So for today, we'll do state of consciousness as well as intelligence. The next week, we don't have a class. We'll meet again on the 11th of September. So once we are done today with the state of consciousness intelligence, we will left with emotion as memory, cognitive and learning, as well as personality, of which we will done on the 11th, 18th, and the 25th. Same applies to PYC 1501. So I'll repeat the information before we close the class today. So for today, make sure that you have your study materials based on state of consciousness and intelligence. My name is Siyabonga Zwane. You can call me Siya, a tutor for both the modules. So let's start with the nature of consciousness. Like I've said, we're going to do the nature of consciousness as well as intelligence. The state of consciousness. The state of consciousness, number one, you need to understand what do we mean by the concept consciousness. Why do we have to study consciousness in psychology? The importance of consciousness. So consciousness, what do we know? As always, before I give you a definition or my understanding of consciousness, let me just hear from you, because you have written your assignments. You have started. So what's your understanding of the term consciousness? Anyone? I have 10 students, so I expect a response. State of consciousness. You just open your mic and give me a bit of an understanding of state consciousness. It's either give me a definition or just a word, a synonym for consciousness. Then we continue.
It would be awareness.
Awareness. Thanks you, Jolene. Next one. Jolene says awareness. Besides awareness, there are other synonyms that you can mention related to consciousness.
Hi, Mr. Sia. It's wakefulness.
Thank you, wakefulness. Thanks very much. And Nomsa. Thank you. Okay, it's fine. We can continue. So Nomsa and Jolene, they've mentioned the concept wakefulness as well as alertness. So yes, consciousness is a state of you being awake, you being alert about something, you being conscious, the nature of consciousness. To be conscious means to be aware of something, aware of what's happening, whether you're surrounding or awareness of your thoughts, state of being aware. A state of clear, organized alertness. So what I was looking, the time I asked you a question, I was looking for, yes, awareness, alertness, wakefulness. So those are the three synonyms that you can use instead of consciousness. So organized alertness, let's start from here. To be conscious means to be aware. That is number one. Two, a state of clear, organized alertness. From being aware, you become aware when you have a clear state of consciousness. You can't be aware if you don't have a clear state of consciousness. You need to have a clear state of consciousness. For instance, I always tell you, if I touch you right now, for you to recognize the touch, you need to be aware that there's someone that is touching you. Meaning you're aware. Your mind does not work on its own, meaning there is a state of awareness. In order for you, I give you an activity for you to do. Then you try the activity in this instance will be a stimulant. I give you a math question, solve for X. Yes, you are conscious. As you can hear me speaking, solve for X, you are conscious. Besides that form of consciousness, for you to apply the steps in doing mathematics, meaning you have a clear state of organized alertness. What do you mean by clear state of organized alertness? Meaning, as soon as you start applying that knowledge, solving that problem, is something that is organized within your mind. Remember, brain, the chapters interlinked. Brain, within your brain, there are structures for that deal with memory. There are structures that deal with retrieving information. So solve for X, meaning as soon as you start applying solving for X, you're stimulating your mind. The thought, the activity, you stimulate your mind, then you apply that activity. You apply those mathematical steps to solve for X, meaning it's organized alertness. You can only solve for X if you know how to solve for X, if you want to solve for X, if you know the steps of mathematics. Where do you retrieve those steps of mathematics, the numbers and figures? Organized alertness, because it's something that you know we have done it before. Thirdly, state of consciousness change when people are tired. You see now? Yes. The only time when our state of consciousness will be affected is when we are tired, under hypnosis, or experiencing drugs. Another point that you can add, the only time our consciousness is changed, coma, when you're in a coma, when you are asleep, when you have a brain damage. That is when our state of consciousness change, when they are disturbed by something. So tired, under hypnosis, experiencing the effects of drugs, damage in your brain, perhaps experiencing a shock, car accident, when you're in a coma or sleeping. That's when your state of consciousness will be affected, because you lose consciousness, you lose awareness, the state of awareness. Lastly, consciousness can be determined through the levels of arousal. They say consciousness can be determined through the levels of arousal. As I've mentioned, I give you a method activity, algebra. I say to you, solve for X. That means your level of consciousness, your level of arousal is being stimulated, is being aroused. For instance, you are relaxed now, not doing anything, minding your own business. As soon as any activity comes that you need to focus on, your level of alertness is being stimulated. You are asleep, knowing that 8 o'clock I need to wake up to attend the class. As soon as you open your laptop, log in, your state of consciousness is being stimulated, is being aroused. So the level of consciousness, that's what they mean. As soon as you focus on something, your level of arousal increases. Consciousness can be determined through the levels of arousal. Level of arousal can be either high or low. So low level of arousal, if you are not interacting with anything. If you are, I can sleep, minding your own business, chatting, depending on the conversation. It could be an intense stimulant, then your level of arousal will be high. If it's low, if it's less intense stimulant, then the level of arousal will be low. So this question might come in an exam, requesting you to define or the description of consciousness, or the particles that you find under the characteristics that makes up consciousness. They give you awareness, or any scenario that has awareness, a clear state of organized alertness. Then they might ask you at what phase or level can our consciousness be affected? What can affect our consciousness? Then you know what can affect your consciousness. They give you the options: tiredness under hypnosis, head injury, coma Unconsciousness leads to low level of alertness, awareness. Again, besides the brain damage, being in a coma, being tired under hypnosis, the effects of drugs, what else can affect your consciousness is emotional intensity, means high level of arousal. Emotional senses, like as I'm mentioning, hearing, perhaps hearing some bad news over the phone. That intensity, meaning emotional state, your emotional state in that particular moment might increase. As soon as it's increased, it influences your levels of consciousness. So I hope you understand that one another. So that's the state of the nature of consciousness. The nature has to do with the particles, the characteristics that makes up consciousness. Moving on. The nature of sleep. We cannot discuss consciousness without discussing sleep. Sleep and consciousness, they work together. Most of the time, we are working during the day, then you have to sleep. Meaning the two work together. When we are asleep, we lose our consciousness. If we not lose our consciousness, our level of arousal is low. Then when we are awake, depends on the activity that we're doing during the day, our level of arousal, they're either low or high. Then the nature of sleep. Firstly, they mentioned that sleep is not a lack of consciousness. Sleep is not a lack of consciousness. You see, I've mentioned to you that when you're tired, that's where your consciousness changes. I mentioned here the state of consciousness change when you're tired under hypnosis experience, as well when you're asleep. State of consciousness changes. Sleep is not a lack of consciousness, but you see the difference. They say sleep is not the lack of consciousness. There is some level of consciousness when you're sleeping. Why? When you're sleeping, I can come to you and wake you up, Jolene, call you Jolene or touch you. And then eventually you wake up. That's what they mean when they say sleep is not the lack of consciousness, because you are not dead. Meaning there is a level of consciousness, however, it is very low. Because when I touch you, when I call your name, eventually you wake up. The brain actively maintains sleep through physiological measurements of brain activity. They say the brain actively maintains sleep through the physiological measurements of brain activity. That is electroencephalogram. Electroencephalogram. That is EEG. Hold on a minute. Butle. Sorry about that, guys. The brain actively maintains sleep through the physiological measurements of brain activity. That is electroencephalogram. That is EEG. So what do they mean about it? Firstly, sleep is not a lack of consciousness. How do we determine that sleep is not a lack of consciousness? Because of this brain activity, which are maintained by physiological measurements in the brain. The brain activity, which are maintained by physiological measurements in the brain. What maintains sleep through physiological measurements in the brain is this EEG. So one student once asked me that, so our brain, we have EEG in our brain, as in is it a structure? Ask me whether is it a structure in our brain or some form of a device. No, we don't have a structure in our brain that is called EEG, or a device that is called EEG. However, the brain activity can be measured through what is called an EEG. An EEG, think of in a hospital. There are machines. When a person is hospitalized, next to the person, there are machines that monitors the brain activity, whether the person is the level of consciousness, particularly the person who is in coma. Those brain activity, you normally see them. They're more like waves. So each and every pattern defines or determines the individual's level of consciousness. That is when the person dies instantly from that machine, you'll hear the sounds. Tee, 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 tee. The sounds become quicker. Tee, 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 tee. Meaning the person is losing consciousness. However, when the waves are a bit thick, that means the person is is awake. This high amplitude, the person is awake. That's what they're meaning. That yes, sleep is not a lack of consciousness. So imagine a person in coma. A person in coma is not dead, but loses as a low level of arousal. However, in order to monitor whether the person is dead or alive, we monitor the brain activities through physiological measurements. So the physiological measurements, remember, when we say physiological measurements, you think of your heart rate, your breathing rate, lungs, physiological, your body parts, your internal body parts, that determines your level of arousal. That determines whether you are dead or alive. So when you are alive, there is heart rate, there is breathing rate. That's how the doctors will detect through electroencephalogram. That's how they determine. You'll hear that they'll mention to you that yes, the person is alive, but through the machines. If you remove the machines, the person might die instantly. So those activities are monitored through EEG. So let's continue. So this EEG is based on 4 important waves. That is delta wave, theta wave, alpha wave, and beta wave. Delta wave, that is, which have a high frequency, which has a high amplitude and a frequency of 0.5 to 3 Hz, exact 3 Hz. Delta waves which have a high amplitude and a frequency of 0.5 to 3 Hz. As you can see, the difference between delta and other waves, delta is much thicker. It's not thin, it's much thicker. Meaning the person is alive. Not alive, actually. The person is, the level of consciousness is a bit higher compared to the others. Then theta waves, which have a slightly low and irregular amplitude and frequency of 4 to 8. Alpha wave, you see, is much thinner. Is much thinner compared to theta. Then beta is just a straight line. So when it's a straight line, they refer to which have a low amplitude and a frequency of 13 to 30 Hz. You see the difference. When amplitude is low, there's high frequency. When an amplitude is high, there's low frequency. Then, what does the waves mean in relation to whether the person is awake or asleep? Let's look at the relationship between the waves. How can you use the waves to determine whether the person is wakeful or asleep. The EEG provides some indication of arousal levels during wakefulness and sleep. The EEG provides some indications of arousal level during wakefulness and sleep. There are most alpha waves. The second one, there are most alpha waves when people are awake. So there are most alpha waves when people are awake and relaxed, particularly if they have their eyes closed. You are awake and relaxed, particularly if your eyes are closed. You can imagine a person sitting on your couch or on your chair, relaxing, meaning you are awake, relaxed. However, your eyes are closed. You know that moment. Most of the time when you experience boredom, you just relaxing on our couch, awake, relaxed, particularly with your eyes closed. That is number one. You can refer that to alpha waves. But as soon as people pay attention to things happening around them, then there's beta wave. As soon as people pay attention to what's happening around them, then there's a beta waves. Meaning these two are mostly related to wakefulness. Not what I've said. These two are more related to wakefulness. As soon as people pay attention to things happening around them, beta waves takes place to replace the alpha waves. So in short, in your textbook, using a pencil, alpha waves, you can write on top here and say, awake, relax, in bracket, with eyes closed. Awake, relax, with eyes closed. Alpha. Then beta replaces alpha waves. What happens here, as soon as you pay attention to what's happening around you, the person, you become awake. So this one is clear. It's the state of being awake, not just awake and relaxed. The state of being awake. Remember, you are sitting in your couch, relaxed, with your eyes closed. Suddenly you hear a knock, or your phone rings, or perhaps you are cooking. You hear that, no, I need to go to the kitchen. You pay attention to what's happening around you. They say then you hear it is beta wave. So beta wave is the state of being awakeness. As soon as people become drowsy, as people become drowsy and fall asleep, then there's more of theta wave. Then on theta wave, you can write here, as soon as people become drowsy and fall asleep, while you're in a couch, you become drowsy and instantly fall asleep. That is delta wave. So you can write on top here in your textbook, drowsy and asleep. Then you might ask yourself that, then what is the meaning of theta waves? As people become drowsy, they fall asleep. This happens under delta wave. Then theta wave is the difference between alpha and delta. Alpha, they mentioned that you are relaxed in your couch with your eyes closed. Here is a state of sleep. You're feeling drowsy and you fall asleep. Therefore, we can assume that the theta waves comes after delta. That is, you fall asleep instantly. We can assume that this is deep sleep. They don't even mention, but we can assume that, okay, this is therefore deep sleep. You are drowsy here, You fall asleep. As soon as you fall asleep, these ones, yeah, you can assume that is why you sleep instantly. So I hope this makes sense. The 4 waves in relation to sleep and wakefulness. Moving on, the nature of sleep. The nature of sleep, we have sleep and restful sleep. Sleep, restful sleep, deep sleep, the function of sleep as well as the sleep disorders. Let's start with sleep. The S here stands for synchronized. Synchronized, the restful sleep. Wave patterns are synchronized, high amplitudes and low frequency. High amplitude and low frequency. That is sleep. Under sleep, which is synchronized, we have 4 phases. Phase 1 is a state of drowsiness. That is light sleep. The state of drowsiness, that is light sleep. You are feeling drowsy. That overwhelming need to sleep. That nice feeling. Which follows by phase 2, deep sleep. Follows immediately 10 minutes later. You are drowsy, light sleep. Suddenly, you up immediately after 10 minutes, you go to deep sleep. So this is whether we are relaxing in a couch, chair, car, or just lying in bed. Phase 3, deep sleep, the person is very relaxed and your autonomic nervous activity slows down. Drowsiness, deep sleep after 10 minutes of drowsiness. From this form of deep sleep, the person is very relaxed and your autonomic nervous system slows down. Then phase 4, very deep sleep. It's difficult to wake up a person in this type of sleep. So those are the phases. During multiple choice questions, what can happen? We might give you this statement, and ask you here, they say, which one is an incorrect statement according to sleep or restful sleep? Which one is an incorrect statement according to and restful sleep? What normally lecturers do, or examiners, they misplaced. You see, phase 1 sleep has to do with drowsiness. However, we must say phase 1 sleep has to do with a very deep sleep, difficult to arouse a person out of the sleep. So we play around the options. So you need to know that phase 1 is straight to the point. That is when you experience drowsiness. Before we sleep, each and every one of us, before we sleep, we experience drowsiness, unless perhaps you have took some sleeping tablets or some substances where you sleep instantly, or even drugged, you sleep instantly. However, when you're normal, tired, experiencing fatigue, phase 1, you'll experience drowsiness. 2 is approximately 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you sleep. Some will be 5 minutes, some will be 20 minutes. Depends on your brain activities. Then follows deep sleep. Deep sleep, the person is very relaxed and autonomic activities, then it slows down. Then a very deep sleep, suddenly very deep sleep happens. Very deep sleep is when it's difficult to even wake you up. We can assume that is 12 o'clock, 1 hour. Not 1 hour, 1 o'clock in the midnight. That type of sleep, the 2 o'clock one, when you hear the alarm, you get frustrated. That is a very deep sleep, the nice one. Then deep sleep. Deep sleep, D stands for desynchronized, not deep sleep. Deep sleep, not deep sleep. Don't confuse deep sleep and deep sleep. Deep sleep stands for desynchronized. Here they say synchronized sleep, desynchronized. Synchronized, they mean there's high amplitude and low frequency. High amplitude, low frequency. High amplitude, low frequency. Slightly low, medium amplitude. That's how you need to apply them. High amplitude meaning is delta wave. Delta wave has to do with when a person is experiencing drowsiness and falls asleep. High amplitude, that is delta. They say as people become drowsy and fall asleep, there are more delta waves. This is delta wave. High amplitude and low frequency. High amplitude and low frequency, meaning this has to do mostly with delta and theta waves, where there's high amplitude and low frequency. Compared to deep sleep. Deep sleep, they say low amplitude and high frequency. Low amplitude and high frequency. Low amplitude and high frequency, that is beta wave. Therefore, deep sleep has mostly has to do with the last one, beta wave, has to do with the beta wave. Deep sleep, desynchronized. That is when sleeping most occurs, not sleeping, dreaming. That's what the textbook says. Under deep sleep, that is when dreaming is likely to occur, mostly occur, when you have low amplitude and high frequency. Dreaming, which they refers to as rapid eye movement. In our textbook, they say rapid eye movement. Let me open my textbook. State of consciousness. They say there is another type of sleep called deep sleep because the wave patterns are desynchronized, which is low amplitude and high frequency. This is actually same pattern that characterize wakefulness. The same pattern that characterize wakefulness. As sleep, you are drowsiness, you are asleep, deep. Desynchronized, they say more in a phase of wakefulness, where there's low amplitude and high frequency. This is actually the same pattern that characterizes wakefulness, although the person is asleep. They say, although the person is asleep, however, there is the state of wakefulness. This is a type of sleep where dreaming mostly often takes place. This is a type of sleep where dreaming takes place. During this sleep, there is what we call rapid eye movement, REM, rapid eye movement. Even though the eyes are closed, it is sometimes called rapid eye movement. Why do we call it rapid eye movement? They say muscle tone is very low during this sleep. Muscle tone is very low during this sleep, meaning it's not an intense sleep. The sleeper is unable to move. Yes, the sleeper is unable to move. However, when the person wake up during this phase, unlike deep sleep, when you wake up during deep sleep, chances are you become confused. If I can come and wake you up in a very, very deep sleep, around the 2 o'clock, Jolene, you are in a deep sleep, remember, as soon as you wake up, you are a bit confused. Your speech is blurry because you're coming from very deep sleep. However, under deep sleep, when I wake you up, you wake up instantly. You wake up instantly during this sleep. When a person is dreaming and I call on him, suddenly wake up. Have you noticed that when you are in a dreaming phase, as soon as the dream is done, you wake up instantly and you remember the dream. That's why they say this sleep is almost equivalent to wakefulness. It's more like you are interacting with your mind, meaning you are not sleep. It's more like you are interacting your mind. Even though you are asleep, however, your mind is active and you are conscious of what is happening in your mind. That is why some people will tell you when you are dreaming, it depends on the dream. When you are dreaming, it's easy to stop the dream or continue the dream. Let's say the dream is too intense. You are about to experience a car accident. Suddenly, within a dream, you save yourself. Meaning there is a level of consciousness, because no one wants to experience car accidents. No one wants to be mugged in the dream. No one wants to be robbed. So you would run away. So the way we unconsciously manage our dream, it means that there is a high level of awareness. Our dreams are related to life. Hence, we can influence some of them, or we cannot influence some of them. Deep sleep, dreaming, rapid eye movement. So when you are dreaming, there's the rapid eye movement. We normally see it in cartoons. They say when you are dreaming, your eyes move. A rapid eye movement. How can you detect that? You can detect that through EEG. When you are dreaming, there's eye movement. Your eyes move. So in short, this sleep compared to asleep, asleep you can just say is when a person is asleep. More particularly, deep sleep. Whereas this sleep is more like a state of being awake. You are asleep, however, you are in a dreaming zone. Within a dreaming zone, there's rapid eye movement. Your eyes are moving. During this phase, I can easily wake you up when you are dreaming compared to when you are sleeping. When you are dreaming, I can easily wake you up compared to when you are dreaming. So that's the important part. Then functions of sleep. Functions of sleep are divided into two. We have cognitive theory and neurobiological perspectives. So when they say functions of sleep, what aspects or perspective that regulates our sleeping? What regulates our sleeping? Yes, what regulates our sleeping is our cognitive aspects as well as neurological perspective. Cognitive aspects, which has to do with REM. Please close your mic. Okay, functions of sleep. Sleep is regulated by cognitive aspect as well as neurobiological perspective. By cognitive has to do with reasoning, thinking and reasoning, applying your thinking. Why reasoning? Because you are asleep. What does reasoning has to do with sleeping? Then they say to you, REM, rapid eye movement, which has to do with dreaming. Let me read it from the textbook. They say, according to cognitive theory, REM sleep allows the brain to withdraw from the outside world and reorganize millions of bits of information collected during the day. The information is not lost, merely reorganized in a more meaningful way. So what I say here is that the purpose of dreaming is to ensure that you reorganize information that happens on a daily basis. During the day, we are focused, trying to do activities, trying to be flexible, doing more than activities at once. Meaning your brain functions effectively or too much when you are awake. As soon as you go to bed, sleep, that information needs to be reorganized. There's unnecessary information that was happening, that you experienced during a day, then the necessary information. According to REM, through cognitive, when you dream through this process of REM, the mind, the brain is trying to reorganize the activities within the brain. They say reorganizing the activities within the brain. So that's the purpose of dream, according to the psychologist, the cognitive theory part of it. Then the neurobiological perspective. Neurobiological perspective, neural network that supports your memory. Neural network that supports your memory is based on the neural network that supports your memory. The context has an enormous number of interconnections. The theory holds that memory information is encoded in this network. When an aspect of network is triggered by the stimuli, related information is remembered. When there is an overload of information, the network did not function well. REM sleep is suggested as the good mechanism to ensure that there's no overload of information. Neurological perspective, like I've said, in neurons, the functions of the neurons is to transport information from one place to another. For it to transport information from one place to another, there needs to be a stimulant. The stimulant in this case, when you dream, meaning your mind has been triggered, the stimulant is that dream. Because the picture is happening in your mind, meaning the neurons are functioning. There is a stimulus. However, what they're emphasizing here is that due to overload of information, particularly during the day, as we're conducting a class right now, you're trying to make sure that there's no one that is disturbing you. You had me calling Buntle, the kid who was knocking. You're trying to focus on your phone because there might be an emergency texts that might come. The building can burn. You need to be able to escape. So your mind is active. You're trying to focus at multiple things at once. Through neurobiological perspective, through our neurons, the functions are always active. Again, when you are asleep, for the fact that when you are asleep, I can come to you and touch you, wake up, Nomsa, wake up. That it shows that the neurons are forever ready to receive the stimulant, are forever ready to receive information. So when you are asleep, that is when the overloaded information, through REM, the body, the neurons are trying to relax by releasing the unnecessary information. Okay, let's continue. Sleep disorder. There are four types of sleep disorder. That is insomnia, narcolepsy, catalepsy, and sleep apnea. Insomnia, which is the most popular one, the inability to sleep. You're finding yourself turning in bed. Insomnia, the lack of sleep. The lack of sleep, which might be due to caffeine, taking too much caffeine before you sleep, overthinking. So the many factors that may affect your insomnia. Then narcolepsy, overwhelming need to sleep. Overwhelming need to sleep, that nice feeling when you want to sleep. Overwhelming need to sleep. Then there's catalepsy. Catalepsy, a sudden collapse. A sudden collapse. When a person is awake but unable to move, they give you an example, but this is when a person is awake but unable to move. This normally happens. I must sit next with you right now. We are talking suddenly, within seconds, you experience sleep. You experience sleep catalepsy. That's sudden sleep. You call it sudden collapse. It happens most of us. Most grandparents experiences that you're talking to the person, then they say, see, I'm talking to you. Oh no, man. You say, I'm thinking of something. While you're not even thinking of something, your mind is just collapsed for seconds. It normally happens. They call it sleep paralysis. You become paralyzed for a moment. They say, when a person is awake but unable to move, it is usually triggered by intense emotional experience or a sudden movement. This, when they say emotional experience, I tell you right now, that's a person that is close to you has passed away. As I'm telling you that a certain person that's close to you has passed away, that shock, for seconds, you keep quiet. You can't hear anything. And the emotional intensity, that's sudden shock. You are shocked. Or when you see a person that you're not expecting, that shock, you sleep, your mind becomes paralyzed, paralyzed for a second. That is sleep catalepsy. You can use different examples. You can read it from your textbook to get more details. Then there's the sleep apnea. Sleep apnea refers to a condition of breathing difficult during sleep. Refer to a condition of breathing difficult when you're sleeping. Whether you're sleeping in bed or in your chair. You find the person sleeping, suddenly wake up and gasp for air. As if he or she is shocked. A condition of breathing difficulty during sleep. This happens when your positions of sleep are abnormal, or that's a condition that you experience. People with this condition wake up gasping for breath, then go back to sleep. You wake up gasping for it, goes to sleep. While you're sleeping, you look around and instantly go to sleep. That is sleep apnea. So it happens to some of the people, not most of us. Moving on, then I will take your questions after. 5 minutes. Hypnosis. Hypnosis. The term hypnosis. Hypnosis is when we are experiencing hypnosis. Let's assume that you go to a psychologist. You go to a psychologist for certain psychological problem. Then the psychologist discovers that, no man, I think you had experienced some tragedy or some traumatic events when perhaps you're a kid, but you can't remember them, or you're trying to suppress them. So each individual who have some traumatic experiences, not each individual, some people have traumatic experiences or unconscious event that happened long ago in our life, but it's difficult to retrieve them due to their intensity or your age, or do you didn't understand what's happening around you. As soon as the psychologist notifies that, but again, trying to assist you to retrieve that information or for you to speak up. However, the psychologist finds it challenging to assist you in retrieving that information. Suddenly, they will send you to a hypnosis. They'll send you to a hypnosis in order to withdraw that information, the information that is hidden inside you, that is affecting you, but you're unconscious, you're unaware. At times you're aware, but you don't want to talk about it. The hypnosis are situations in which people's behavior are involuntary and hypnotic. So when you go to an hypnosis has some ways of putting you back in that situation and in that situation that challenges you. You might find people perhaps finding it hard to stand in front of people. They have social phobia. They don't want people next to them, only to realize that something happens while you were a kid, but you can't interpret it as an adult. to say, no, I have a social phobia due to 1, 2, 3. Then the hypnosis, they say, situations and the situation which people's behavior is voluntary. The hypnosis will put you in a situation and make sure that he or she facilitates your behavior. They say involuntary, in order to go back to that situation. A situation in which people's behavior are involuntary. Meaning the hypnosis will make sure that it facilitates your behavior. To facilitate your behavior in order for you to talk about what have affected you while you were a kid. At times, not even while you were a kid, that thing perhaps happens while you are at the low consciousness. Perhaps you experience a car accident, then something happens to you. You had been drunk, then something happens to you. The purpose of the hypnosis will make sure that influence the behavior involuntary. By involuntary meaning, the hypnosis, you'll come to an hypnosis, you sit down, you know that you have a problem, but you don't know what the problem is. The hypnosis normally will ask you a permission. Are you sure you want to do this? You write a consent form, a permission to allow the hypnosis to get into your mind, to get into your past with you. They say this is done through the process called increased suggestibility. Hypnosis is done through the process called increased suggestibility in the context of a special relationship between the person and the hypnosis. Increased suggestibility would be, let's say the person was drunk and sexually assaulted, whether as a kid or an adult. Some of the questions that the psychologist might ask you is, imagine you're in these situations, how would you handle it? Imagine that you're in this situation, how would you handle it? That is suggestibility. I ask you questions, then you need to answer them now that you're aware. How would you manage these particular situations? Imagine that you're challenged by this, how would you manage it? By doing that, the hypnosis, it's trying to take you back to some, remember the psychologist has some key pointers, if not key pointers, some clues of what might have been happening to you, but he or she can't get on the details on what is affecting you. Then give the hypnosis the notes. So the hypnosis will work on the notes as to what might be affecting you. So the hypnosis questions will be based on the notes that have been given by the psychologist, or the notes that the hypnotist took while you are discussing. Those notes, that information, it will use as a suggestibility. The question that the hypnotist will ask you will be based on suggestibility, meaning he or she asks the question or suggests certain things for you to do. So, the hypnosis we normally see in the movies, particularly Chinese movies. This is done through the process called increased suggestibility. I ask you questions, I tell you what you do. Remember, your behavior is involuntary, meaning it's more like I get into your mind. It's in hypnosis. Imagine you in this situation, how would you manage it? Then you answer me. You answer me, yes, you have a level of consciousness. However, I have hypnotized you for you to go back to what has happened in your life through increased suggestibility. So you cannot put a person through hypnosis if the person is not willing to work with you. Like they say here, the person has to be willing to be hypnotized for it to succeed. It's raining where I'm at. Sure you can hear the rain. It's raining, so I'll try to raise my voice. So for hypnosis to take place, for hypnosis to be successful, the person has to be willing. Before you come to it, not before, as soon as you get to the hypnosis, like I've said, you will sign a consent form. You need to be willing to do it. Because if you're not willing, meaning your mind won't be able to draw back the information. Your mind will had a blockage. Because remember, the psychologist sent you because you really want to talk. You didn't want to go back to what you have experienced, what they've been challenging you. Now you come to the hypnosis. Again, this cannot be done if you're not willing. You need to be willing for hypnosis to succeed. They say hypnotized people can walk around and respond to things in the real world. Hypnotized people, they can walk around and respond to things that's happening around them. Hence, there is a increased searchability. Hypnosis will ask you questions, usher you to do certain things, meaning there is a form of hearing. You can hear and apply what the hypnosis is saying to you. Yes, that's why they say hypnosis can walk around and respond to things that are happening around in the world. Because there is a level of consciousness we can hear. However, you need to be willing to go back to what has been affecting you. They say health hypnosis is based on increased suggestibility. Increased suggestibility is when the hypnotist says, do this. Imagine you're in this situation, how can you manage it? Hypnosis is based on the increased suggestibility of the patient in a state that they have the willingness to participate, to be participants. Okay, let's leave it for now. I'll give an opportunity to ask questions or elaborate. Then, what hypnosis do? This is a summary of this phase. Then ask you what hypnosis can do. Hypnosis produces relaxations, concentration, temporary changes in behavior. They help you to relax, concentrate, and influence temporary changes in the behavior. Another use of hypnosis is post-hypnotic suggestion, post-hypnotic suggestion, which refers to the suggestions to do or experience something in a particular way after coming out of being hypnotized. Remember what I said to you. Hypnosis. You come to a hypnotist, hypnotist. You are willing to change. You are willing to go back. Then the hypnotist will work with you. During that phase, the hypnotist, like I've said, will ask you questions or suggest things that you need to do in order to change your behavior. Then after that, hypnotist needs to ensure that yes, you are now better. You have been able to withdraw the information. Then post-synaptic suggestibility is as soon as after you have been hypnotized, the hypnotist will ask you questions, same suggestibility that were done when you were hypnotized. Now you are conscious, you are aware. You are sitting down, you are done in hypnosis. I ask you the same questions. By asking you the same questions, I'm trying to ascertain if what we have been doing, can you do it when you are conscious? Remember, you are trying to change your behavior. You have a fear of standing in front of people. You have a fear of social phobia that you don't know what the cause of it. Now we put you in the same situation like when you have been hypnotized. However, now we put you in the same situation while you are conscious. That is post-synaptic suggestibility. We put you in the same situation, perhaps in front of people, and see how you will manage it. How you manage social phobia. That is post-synaptic, meaning pre is when you are being hypnotized in that instant. Then post is after you are being hypnotized. What hypnosis cannot do? What hypnosis cannot do? This is what hypnosis can do, which it can help you relax, concentrate, change temporary behaviors. And this is what happens after. What hypnosis cannot do at all. Hypnosis cannot prevent the body from experiencing pain. Hypnosis cannot prevent the body from experiencing pain. Remember, like I've said, you are conscious. This is not magic. Hypnosis is not about magic. You are conscious, meaning when I pinch you, you'll feel the pain. When I shout at you, I might distract the event. You come back to life. Hypnosis does not prevent the body from experiencing pain. You can still experience pain. Hypnosis cannot make you stronger. Those are assumptions. Hypnosis cannot make you stronger. Hypnosis cannot improve the memory, but it can produce relaxation, concentration, and temporary changes in your behavior. Is hypnosis an altered state of consciousness? They're asking, is hypnosis an altered state of consciousness? The answer is hypnosis is a special state of consciousness characterized by a great increased suggestibility. Meaning the hypnosis suggests an increased suggestibility through questioning and telling you what to do in order to see how you manage. Hypnosis is not an altered state of consciousness. So in short, hypnosis is not an altered state of consciousness. Hypnosis is done through your consciousness, through your level of awareness. It's just that the difference here is that the hypnosis is trying to influence your behavior in a way that you go back to what is hidden. Lastly, the effect of psychoactive drugs. The effect of psychoactive drugs. We have been studying about drugs, human nervous system. We've mentioned drugs. Again, here psychoactive drug. The psychoactive drug, which we have a stimulant. Stimulants increase alertness, boost energy. Why are we talking about drug, the psychoactive drugs in this chapter? Remember consciousness. I've said consciousness the level of consciousness can be affected by the drug usage. Drug usage, they're not referring to cocaine, your ecstasy. They are not referring to illegal drugs. However, they're referring to both illegal and legal drugs. There are drugs that are illegal and drugs that are legal, that are allowed. For instance, there's a stimulant. The stimulants increase alertness, boost energy, activity, produce pleasant feeling. For example, amphetamine. I think you can find amphetamine in some of the prescribed medication. Cocaine and caffeine. You see that they're illegal and legal drugs. Caffeine is a drug. Bioplus, coffee, the caffeine. They are stimulant. Why they say they are stimulant? They stimulate your mind. They boost your energy. Then they are stimulant. Once you drink them or you take those substances, your body automatically is being stimulated. Depressants comes from depression. Depressant drugs decrease the level of arousal. When you are depressed, your level of arousal becomes low. Remember, you are depressed. There's no high intensity in your body. Depressant decrease arousal level. For example, drugs like alcohol, tranquilizer, narcotics, cigarettes, tranquilizer, that drug they use for animals, to drug the animals using the injection, as well as opiate drugs, meaning that depressing you, as act as a depressant. Then you have hallucinogen. Hallucinogen are drugs that bring about distorted sensory experience. They bring about distorted sensory experience. Those type of drugs, they affect your sensory experience. That is marijuana. The most popular is marijuana, ecstasy, and LSD. People who take hallucinogen have intense sensory experiences and can enter a dreamlike state. They're in their zone. They are imagining things. Marijuana is the most popular. As soon as you drink it, they tell you people who say, as soon as I drink marijuana, I become relaxed. You're in your zone. Those are type of drugs. They refer them to hallucinogens. During exams, you might get just 2 or 1 question based on these drugs. This is just to inform you as a aspiring psychologist, behaviorist, social work, that when you're in a session, conducting sessions, this is what you experience. This is what you need to consider when you're dealing with people's minds. Please close your mic. Inhalants. Then we have inhalants. Inhalants are substances that produce a sense of intoxication when they are inhaled, sniffing through the nose or mouth. These are cleaning paints, glue, and cleaning fluids. Cleaning fluids, paint, and glue. Inhalant. You notice how people smoke glue? They inhale inside. The way they do it, whether in their shirt or in bottles. So they hear inhalants. They refer to inhalants. Cleaning fluids, again, you will find it is compulsory for when you have a cleaning company, or when you have a company, when people clean certain substances, they need to cover their nostrils and their mouth. It's part of their precautions when they clean. Painting as well. When people are painting, that it is recommended that they need to cover their mouth because painting is too strong. It can drag you. Chronic drug effect. Then chronic drug effects have an initial desirable effect, such as excitement and relaxation. Nonetheless, these drugs wear off as it leaves the brain and experience withdrawal. This is a long-term effect of drugs. When you take drugs for a long period of time, we refer to chronic drug effect, the effect of drugs. They say chronic drug effects have initial desirable effects. When you start taking some substances, initially the experience is pleasurable. It's a good feeling. However, as you experience it, as time passes, the drugs wear off to leave the brain. The drugs affect certain parts of your body functioning. You'll find that people who have smoked drugs for long, in the end, they end up either losing their mind, because there are certain parts of the brain are being affected by those drugs. Blood vessels, capillaries, some are being affected by the drugs. Experiences withdrawal. When some people, again, they experience withdrawal effects, that's where it hits them the most. So there are different symptoms that we experience when people have a long experience of drugs usage. Okay, guys, I'm done with the nature of consciousness. So before we move on, any questions, elaborations based on what you have been discussing? Jordan, Nicole, I can see your hand is up. Your hand is up.
Hi, Sia. I just wanted to ask about sleep paralysis.
Okay.
If it's caused by, example, extreme anxiety, I know that is one of the causes of sleep paralysis. I just want to know what goes on in the brain that causes your mind to be awake but doesn't allow your body to move.
Okay, thanks very much. Let me go through it. Sleep paralysis, the catalepsy. They say it is a sudden collapse. It's a sudden collapse when a person is awake but unable to move. It is usually triggered by intense emotional experience, like you're saying, anxiety, a sudden movement. Another symptom of okay, I think I remember it. Another symptom of catalepsy is called sleep paralysis that occurs before falling asleep or waking in the morning. Okay. The other is brain activities, human nervous system. Remember, I said to you, when a person experiences shock, what happens in your brain? There are fluids, there are ions that takes place. They move around your brain. For you to receive a stimulant, for you to receive information and intense stimulation, your brain needs to release neurotransmitters, your brain, your fluids, your brain have ions. when you experience shock, what happens is your brain becomes overstimulated, meaning you have a high level of arousal. As soon as you have a high level of arousal, your brain becomes overstimulated by the fluids, the ions. Then I mentioned to you that as soon as that happens, there's a reflectory period. The reflectory period makes sure that it decreases the overstimulation. Overstimulation becomes, because overstimulation, your brain does not function well. Going back to the sleep catalyst, anxiety shock. When you experience shock or too much anxiety, suddenly you experience sleep paralysis in your mind, meaning your brain is overstimulated for that particular moment. I hope I'm answering your question, Nicole. So your brain is overstimulated for that particular moment. You have to be paralyzed. Then suddenly, when a person touches you or calls your name, you come back to life. Nicole, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, pleasure. Tamzo, I can see your hand is up. You can ask Tamzo.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I just wanted to ask, when are our exams for PYC 1501 and PYC 1502?
Or when are the exams?
Yeah.
Okay, the 1501, PYC 1501, you are writing on the 27th September.
Okay, and then the 1502?
4 October.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do you have access to my UNISA?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to make sure because a lot of dates were going around and I just wanted to be 100%.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so those are the dates. If there are any changes, yeah, please make sure that you consult the announcement. Yeah, there are changes will be made there.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, sir.
Intelligence is divided into 4 units. That is the concept of intelligence, concept and measurement of intelligence, theories of intelligence, as well as intelligence and creativity. Let me open my textbooks. Intelligence. Where is the intelligence in my textbook? Intelligence. What page is intelligence? 150, 144. What is your understanding of the term intelligence? How can you measure intelligence? What's your understanding of the term intelligence? We normally say people are intelligent. We normally use the concept now and again, referring to people as intelligent. That person is the intelligent. So in short, we can say intelligence is to determine the individual's level of competency, individual's levels of doing certain activities, your ability to do certain activities. And then you say to you, you're intelligent because you are competent. You have an ability to perform certain activities. Then we can shortly say that person is intelligent. However, in psychology, we will give you a breakdown on how to define intelligence, particularly as a psychology student. Now and again, as soon as people hear that you are studying psychology, or you're a psychologist, or you're a social worker, or any human behaviorist, they start asking you questions. They say, what you understand with intelligence, and you need to be able to answer them because that's your field, that's your specialty. When a person says to you, do you think I'm intelligent? You need to be able to say yes or no. Yes, why? No, why? So let's start with the concept intelligence. Concepts and measurements of intelligence. Intelligence refers to the ability to reason, solve problems, learn, perform complete tasks, and act purposefully and adapt to the environment. Intelligence refers to the ability to reason. So your ability to reason, ability to solve problems, learn, perform complex tasks, act purposefully, and adapt to the environment. We refer you to intelligent. Can you see this definition? Intelligence is not based on whether you can perform certain activities or you cannot. The ability, when I talk to you right now, the ability to grasp information, the ability to be able to ask relevant questions, the ability to be able to understand and write your notes. That is some form of intelligence. Your understanding, your ability to understand is intelligence. Ability to solve problem, reason, ability to adapt in an environment. I invite you to a certain event. Remember, each and every situation, in each and every event, we choose people that we like to interact with. We choose people that we invite in certain events. I know amongst my friends, there's Jolene, there's Nicole, there's Bongan, and there's Tamza. Among those 4 friends of mine, I know certain people I invite to meet certain individuals in certain events. Certain people are saying, no, Tamza, I don't need you here. Tamza is not supposed to be in this event because I know your behavior, how you adapt in a certain environment. So that certain adaptation to different environments, that is intelligent. There are people, that when I invite him or her in this situation, suddenly within few minutes, you share with the individuals. I invite you to sit with me, we conduct a class. That's a type of intelligence, meaning we're unique. In short, intelligent is also defined by our uniqueness from situation to situations. When we do events in our homes, let's say there's a funeral, especially particularly black people. When there's an event, we need to slaughter a cow. The neighbors will come and assist with catering, meaning adaptation to general. There's a specific person who be asked who will need to slaughter a cow, to kill a cow. That specific person, meaning that person is adaptable in that environment. That person is intelligent in that specific aspects. There are people who come in and install a tent, meaning they are intelligent in that particular aspects. Yes, they say act purposefully, adapt to environment, adapt in other environment. Okay, let's continue. Intelligence is measured through the use of psychological standardized tests. How to measure intelligence? We measure intelligence through standardized tests. For us to say you are intelligent in numbers and figures, for us to say you are good in maths, we need to give you assessments. In school setting, we'll give you maths activities. As soon as you perform those activities, you get that required mark. We can determine that, okay, Bongane is good in mathematics, is intelligent in numbers and figures. We can measure intelligence through standardized tests or psychological tests. When you go for an interview, assessment test, beside the interview, face-to-face interview, they give you certain psychological tests, whether you questions like to determine whether you can work with people, how can you work under pressure, how's your temper, your level of anxiety through the psychological standardized tests. They are used to measure individuals' behavior performance through different tasks and activities. That's how we measure intelligence, because intelligence is different. Intelligence is defined by different unique entities. Then how to measure it? We have mental age and intelligent conscience. Mental age. What is mental age? Mental age is your level of reasoning, your level of, they say child's mental age is based on the age-related questions that the child can answer and tasks that the child can perform on a test of intelligence. Child is 12 years old. You have a child that is 12 years old. Okay, let me do this. As a primary school teacher or higher primary school teacher, you identify that no, there's a problem with this specific learner. He or she can't perform in this grade. They say grade 2. The child can't perform well in grade 2. now I have to now what you do as a teacher, you consult the parents, you inform the parents with the principal, you inform them this child can't perform mathematics in grade 2, can't perform languages in grade 2. We are not sure what is happening. So we were thinking that we need to refer the child to a child psychologist or educational psychology in the context of South Africa. As we have educational psychologists which perform child activity, which they perform child activities. You take that child to a educational psychologist. The educational psychologist need to check the level of competence of the child. Need to check the child's mental age competency. What they normally do is, let's say your child is 6 years old. They will give your child activities for 6-year-olds to check if your child can perform the activities for 6-year-olds, or they'll give your child activities for 5-year-old, 4-year-old, just to determine the level of competence of your child, the mental abilities of your child. Your child is 6 years old, but can only perform, you'll find that your child is 6 years old, but can only perform the activity that can be done by a 5-year-old and 4-year-old. Your child is 6 years old, that is an original age, that's a chronological age. Chronological age is your specific age. The child's age, the child is 6 years old. ID, your birth certificate, your ID says you are 6 years old. Your mental age is to do with the activity that you can perform. Your child is 6 years old, but can only perform activities that can be done by 4 years old and 5-year-olds. So that is the mental age. The mental age is 4 to 5. However, the chronological age is 6 years old. I hope you understand. So the child's mental age is based on the activities or the tasks that the child can perform. And the chronic age is the child's original age, chronological age. Then we have intelligent conscience. Intelligent conscience is the ratio multiplied by a child's mental age and chronological age. What is intelligent conscience? Intelligent conscience is the division, mental age divided by chronological age. Then you get your answer. So that's how they measure intelligent conscience. For instance, they will say your child is how many years of age? Your child is 12 years old. I'm looking for an example in the textbook. Where is it? Okay. Your child is, where is it? Please bear with me. I'm looking for an example in the textbook. An appropriate example. They say Dinero is 12 years old. She can perform all the tasks designed for children of 12 years and younger. She can also perform half of 13-year-old or quarter of a 14-year-old. We can conclude that Dinero mental age is 12 years old, 6 months. How do we get that? How do we calculate that? That's when we say mental age over your chronological age. The answer that you get, you can conclude that the intelligent conscious IQ, the Nero's IQ is perhaps 80%. That's how the educational psychology measure your child's intelligence. Then the psychologist will prescribe to the parents and as well as the child that in order for your child to develop, you need to do these activities or need to be moved from that school. Perhaps the child needs to go to a special school. Perhaps the child needs to move to a lower grade instead of doing grade 2. Perhaps the child needs to start back to grade 1. So it depends. So that's how they measure intelligent conscience. Then you have theories. You have theories of intelligence. How many theories do you have under intelligence? There are 5. We have biological intelligence, intelligence as one general factor, intelligence as multiple intelligence, a multiple intelligent information process approach, heredity versus environment. Let's start with biological intelligence. Biological intelligence, which has been done. The founder of biological intelligence is Sir Francis Galton. Sir Francis Galton, biological intelligence. Biological, what comes into your mind is the physical part of it. Biological, something that you are born with. You have to say biological. Okay, biological by Sir Francis. Even in your multiple choice questions, make sure that you associate Sir Francis with biological of intelligence. Biological intelligence has to do with genetics. Remember, genetics are biological. It's something that you take from your parents or family members. It's genetically. According to Sir Francis, he believes that we inherit intelligence. He used a statement that says intelligence runs in the family. Intelligence runs in the family. He used that statement. Intelligence runs in the family through genetics, from generation to generation. He explains this by differentiating the two concepts, that is the nature and nurture. It says nature refers to the inherited component of intelligence. Inherited component of intelligence. Inherited component of, have you noticed that if most of the time, I'm not saying always, most of the time, if a child grew up in a either educated family, if not educated family, certain genetics, either you are educated, you are smart in doing something. Example would be your father is good in dealing with electricity. Your father hasn't done electricity, haven't studied electricity. However, he's good in doing electricity. It's good in not. Let me not say electricity. It's either education or you're good in working with your hands, or you're intelligent in certain aspects. Chances are your kid, your biological kids, would be influenced by those skills. So they either influence psychologically or they will inherit those genes, those hard-working genes, those working your hands genes. Yes, genetically refer to inherited components of intelligence. The inherited components of intelligence. So inherited genetically, biologically. Then there's nurture. Nurture, compared to nature, the effect of the environment. So the more as your kids see you doing something, the more as your kids experiences that you are good in mathematics, you are good in dealing with people, you are good in dealing with law, you are good in fixing things. That can influence them. That I also want to do this. Meaning that one is not genetically, as in biologically, but it's the effect of the environment. You grew up in a family setting of doctors. Most people in that family, they are following medicine as their practice. Also, because you grew up in that setting, you are familiar with what they do. It's time to influence you psychologically. Then you want to be a medical practitioner as well. That is genetically inherited. So it's either inherited component of intelligence through nature, then the nurture, which is the effect of the environment. You're being influenced by the environment. That is Sir Francis Galton, biological inheritance. Nature and nurture. The second one, intelligence as one general factor and multiple factors, by Charles Spearman. Charles Spearman Intelligence has different theories. Each and every aspect that I'll discuss now, there's a specific theory that you need to quote, that you need to consider. Charles Perman. We discussed Francis Galton. Now it's Charles Perman. Charles Perman, they say intelligence as a general factor. He argues that intelligence is the one general factor or multiple factors. Charles Perman. He makes use of let me read it. There is a view, according to Charles Perman, he said there is a view that intelligence is based on one general single factor. There's a view that intelligence is based on one single factor. That's what you know. When you say a person is intelligent, as a layperson, people who don't have much knowledge, now we're at an advantage as psychology students. You can see that there's multiple intelligence, not a single intelligence, there's multiple intelligence. For you to conclude that a person is intelligent, you need to quote, are you intelligent in mathematics? Are you intelligent in working domains? Are you intelligent musically? Meaning there's multiple intelligence. However, before we studied psychology, we knew that there's only one form of intelligence. When we say a person is intelligent, like kids from school, we say someone is smart because it's good in dealing with the content of the subject, but you only to find that the person does not play sport. It's good with content, with his or her books, but when it comes to sport, we are good as well, meaning you are both intelligent, but in different aspects. That's what Perman is trying to draw us from. They say, no, not only we cannot view individual in one aspect and say they're intelligent. When you say a person is intelligent, you need to be specific. Intelligent in what? Because it might happen that you are all intelligent in our phases, but intelligent in what? He based his theory on research findings that there are strong relations between performance on different intellectual tasks. Perman called this underlying factor as a general factor, general intellectual ability, which is G factor. Now he tries to break down these aspects. There's G factor and multiple factors. G factor and multiple factor. Guessing. That's all with Perman. Introduces a one general factor and also say there are multiple factors. However, these two theorists, Guessing and Galford, they continue. They break down what do they mean by multiple factors, or what do we mean by one factor, of which is G factor. Guessing says we can, for us to understand intelligence, you need to break down intelligence in these 7 aspects. Verbal comprehension. Verbal comprehension, your ability to understand concepts verbally. So your ability to understand concepts verbally. Your ability to understand concepts in a verbal form. Students differ, people differ. As I'm talking to you right now, some people, in order for them to understand, they need to do the same. They need to go to the mirror and rehearse what they've studied. You take your textbook, you go to a mirror, and you rehearse for the information to go through your minds. They are auditory learners and visual learners. Some people, in order for information to understand information, they need to see the slides like this. They need to see the slide, they need to see the colors, they need to write notes, they need to use their highlighters, brainstorm. So they differ. So in this aspect, verbal comprehension are those individuals who understand through listening. As I'm talking to you right now, that is one way that you're good at understanding. When there's verbal information, you need to listen to the voice notes in order for you to understand. That is verbal comprehension. Then there's a general reasoning. General reasoning, the ability to solve complex problem and plan something newly by drawing on experiences. Your ability to remember. Simple thing is the ability to remember and apply it in life generally. That is one form of reasoning. General intelligence, general reasoning intelligence. Then there's word fluency. Word fluent, the ability to speak and write fluently. The ability to speak and write fluently. we can refer to news readers, the journalists. They are good in that. Yes, you are all good in, not all, you are mostly good in, as soon as you register with UNISA, be able to write your assignments and manage to pass them, meaning you have wording fluently, speaking and writing. But those who are master, people, so it's up to you to choose a career. If you're interested in a career, that's why you go going for journalism and being a news reader, which is influenced by word fluently. Then there's memory, ability to learn and remember information. So your ability to learn and remember information is a form of intelligence. Number ability, the ability to deal with numbers and figures. Not all of us are excellent in numbers and figures, unless it's money. All of us are good in counting money, numbers and figures. But when you say solve for X, that's where the problem comes. So number ability is your ability to deal with numbers and figures. Spatial ability, the ability to represent things visually. Like I've said, the more I try to make sure that my slides have different colors in order to stimulate your mind. Because I know some students are visual learners. They need to see in order to understand. They need to draw something in order to understand. That is spatial ability. Then there's perceptual speed, the ability to recognize objects and identify similarities and differences. So the ability to recognize objects is more like visual. Some students, when they learn, remember, you'll get these slides. Some students, when they learn, they think in colors. Blue, green, this is red, black. So they say ability to recognize objects. Ability to recognize objects. Some students drew pictures, like Jolene mentioned last week, regarding occipital lobe, the eye. That the O, normally what she does is that occipital lobe is O. She draw an eye. That is a part of her learning. You draw objects in order for you to remember information. Then G factor. G factor, all in all, they're saying intelligence is different. G factor, we can understand intelligence through these three factors. That is operations. Operations are several ways the brain deals with the task. Several ways that the brain deals with the task. Each operation are processes such as evaluation and memory. So it's a repetition of certain aspects like this memory. However, they are using different phases. So your ability to operationalize, to think through something, to apply knowledge into something, that is one form of intelligence that under Galford. Your ability to brainstorm are several ways the brain deals with a task, whether you evaluate or you memorize something. The content, the ability to refer to the different form of mental representation, visual, auditory, and behavioral. Like I've said here, visual, verbal, auditory. So your ability to apply your visual, auditory, behavioral when applying aspects, when representing objects, when breaking down aspects, is through content. That is Galford. Products are the result of operation, your thinking process, when you evaluate and memorizing. Product could be identification of relationship between things resulting from mental operation. So it's just a summary. Keywords, like I've said, I always say keywords for you not to confuse yourself. Just in multiple factor, just know that there are 7 multiple factors. G factor is broken down into 3. OCP, you can just say right OCP to remember, operation, content, and product under general factor by Galford. As soon as the exam questions come, for you to remember information, you look at the keywords mostly. As soon as you forgot information, you remember the keyword. When they say operational, content, product, oh man, Galford theory. Moving on, multiple intelligence. You see, multiple intelligence, they consist of 8. Unlike testing is 7, multiple intelligence by Gardner, there are 8. Again, it's repetition, just that they're using the different word terminology. Musical intelligence. Musical intelligence, arts, your ability to do music. Your AKA Casper Nyovest, Mariah Carey, Michael Jackson, their musical intelligence, because they have an ability to perform music, make music, compose music, you maporisa and perform music. They are musically intelligent. Bodily kinestic intelligence. Bodily kinestic intelligence, that's your motor coordination mostly. Tennis players, Vanessa Williams. Soccer players, Cristiano Ronaldo. Wrestlers, your Goldberg, Brock Lesnar. They are bodily kinestic intelligence. They use their body to perform activities and earn money. So they are good kinestic, the intelligent kinesthetically. Logically, mathematics, I mentioned that one. The ability to use numbers and figures. However, yeah, they are logical and mathematical intelligent. We can take it far as your accountants, actuary, engineering students. They need to be logically, mathematically intelligent. Then the linguistic intelligence. Linguistic intelligence, we can compare it to word fluently, verbal comprehension. It's a repetition but using different words. Journalist, your ability to write, to understand languages, to speak is influenced by linguistic intelligence. When you take it far, that's where your career is. In journalism, news reader. Spatial intelligence. I've mentioned spatial intelligence for organizing things in space, like drawing and navigating. Those people are good in gaming. Gaming is a career now. Sports, gaming. You'll find shows, even Machi Choice DSTV, there's a show that is related to gaming, as now it is a career to some people. So special. So the ability to draw, the ability to navigate certain aspects, ability to, when you watch a concert, before they start the concert in the stadiums, before the artist comes in, you see firelighters, the sound, and the lightning changes. Meaning that person is spatially intelligent because he or she designed these things. Imagine these things first, then put them into practice, spatial intelligence. Then you have interpersonal intelligence, your ability to speak, your ability to make sure that your people are attracted to you. As a psychologist, teachers, lecturers, they need to be good in your interpersonal skills. When you speak, people need to listen to you. Your ability to maintain relationship from one place to another. Meaning you are interpersonal intelligent. Then intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to speak to yourself, your ability to understand yourself, your ability to be in touch with your own feelings. Naturalistic intelligence. Naturalistic intelligence, the last one, the ability to recognize subjects, understand, organize, perform activity, relationship in a natural environment. When they say naturalistic, when they say the person is natural gifted, is natural. Again, it's an ability to adapt in different environments. I've mentioned that your ability to adapt in certain environments is influenced by you being a natural intelligence, naturalistics. That is multiple intelligence, which is based on 8 aspects. Moving on, we had Robert Sternberg. Robert Sternberg, which is information processing. We have componential intelligence, experiential intelligence, and contextual intelligence. Let's start with componential intelligence. According to Sternberg, for us to understand intelligence, we need to break it into three aspects. Componential intelligence refers to ways in which people process information. Refers to ways people process information, e.g., are processes used for planning and problem solving. For us to say intelligent, you need to have an ability to plan, problem solving, or obtain new information. How do you obtain new information? Experiential intelligence. Your intelligence is influenced by your past experience. Your intelligence is influenced by what you have learned throughout your life. They say it refers to ways people's past experiences contribute to knowledge, skills that are applied in life and situations. Then contextual intelligence refers to the ability to adapt to real-world situation in various contexts. It's the repetition. Contextual intelligence, again, natural intelligence. Your ability to adapt in the real world, your ability to adapt in your different setting. It refers to ability to adapt to real-world situations. Context, by context, they mean different setting, from context to context. Various contexts. That is Robert Sternberg. Heredity versus the environment. Other aspects that influence intelligence. I've mentioned in the beginning. Who's that theory? The first theorist we have discussed. Francis Galton, biological intelligence. He mentioned that heredity and environment, the genetics influence intelligence. Heredity versus environment. How heredity and environment influence one's intelligence. People who are closely related in terms of genetics obtain similar scores on intelligence. People who are closely related obtain similar scores. We have noticed that, particularly when you use twins. Normally twins' intelligence is almost equivalent. Not the same, but it's equivalent. They can perform same task, same activities. Again, we say people who are close related. People who are close related are likely to perform to score similar. Let's imagine you're not twins, but you grew up together. Grew up in the same setting, same house. Genetically, remember, I said genetically is to do with genetics biologically, because you're in the same bloodline. Or the effects within the family. You have seen dad good in working with their hands, in performing certain activity. Mom is a good cooker. Then psychologically, you want to be the same as mom, meaning the environment influences you. And the genetics, again, you are more likely to be a good cooker. You are more likely to be good in working your hands. You are more likely to be good in dealing with numbers and figures, because that is normally what you do when you are sitting together. People who are close related in terms of genes obtain similar scores in intelligence. The closer the relationship, the more similar scores are likely. E.g., it has been found that test scores on identical twins are more similar than those of fraternal twins. Identical twins that are similar, born at the same time. Then there are fraternal twins. Let me open my textbook. Let me read it from the textbook so that I won't confuse us further. Identical twins, they say one egg. The common twins, the twins that are similar, even they are facially similar. And they are twins who don't look alike. They are twins, but they don't look alike. Have you noticed that? There are twins who look alike, there are twins who don't look alike. When they say these are twins, you find it hard to believe. So they're saying here, identical twins are more likely to perform similar compared to fraternal twins, which are influenced by heredity. Then the environment. How does the environment influence your mental ability? People who are raised in a similar environment obtain similar scores on intelligence tests, meaning that people who share same environment are exposed to same kinds of stimulation and support for the development of skills and abilities. So I've mentioned this. You grew up together in a similar environment. exposed to similar aspects, you're more likely to perform similar scores. You're more likely to produce similar scores. Imagine kids or personnel who go to the same school. They are likely to perform similar because they went to the same schools. That quality of education is more likely to influence all of them similarly. I think this is it. Okay, last part of discussion: intelligence versus creativity. Why intelligence versus creativity? They say creativity involves original, novel, unusual ways of doing things. When you say a person is creative, you are trying to say the person is more likely to perform original things, more likely to perform come up with unusual ways of doing things, coming up with beautiful ideas. Creativity and intelligence are related. They say the creativity and intelligence are related, but they represent different kinds of mental abilities. They're related, but represent different kinds of mental abilities. Most highly creative people have above average of intellectual abilities. So for you to answer this, make sure that you look at the keywords. It will come in your multiple choice question, believe me. These 4 aspects. Most high creative people have above average of intellectual ability. Creative thinking differs from routine problem solving because it is inventive and include originality. That is creativity. Creative thinking is adaptive in the sense that it must be appropriate to a situation and the problem. So your creativity must be appropriate. What do they mean? When you say creativity in writing or in drawing, we need to see a drawing. You need to be relevant in that setting. Then we have divergent, convergent, and cognitive thinking. Divergent thinking refers to the ability to produce unusual and unconventional thoughts and solutions to the problem. So that is creativity. Your ability to produce unusual things, unconventional thoughts and solutions to the problem. You can say you are divergent thinking. Then convergent thinking describes the thought process that conventional and correct answers to problem. Convergent thinking describes the thought process that conventional correct answers to the problem. Lastly, cognitive complexity refers to the ability to think beyond what is presented to you. Your ability to think beyond what is presented to you, to use complex thoughts and patterns. So this will come in your perhaps 3 questions around these 2. Okay, guys, I'm done for today.
Yes, I just wanted to ask on the intelligence quotients, when they calculate, the psychologists, do they use the to determine the age of the child? Do they use the gross motor skills, fine motor skills, etc.? And how accurate is it for them to find the accurate intelligence quotient of the child?
Okay, so intelligent confusion is whereby they measure the child intelligence or what the child, which activities can the child perform. How accurate it is. Let's go back to the slide, to the first few slides. Remember, they've mentioned that intelligence is measured through the use of psychological standardized tests. As soon as they say the standardized test, meaning the test has been designed and been used over and over again, they've been accepted by HPSA. You know, HPSA is the board that regulates the health, the board that regulates the doctors, psychologists. So each and every test that is used is a test that has been accepted by the board, the psychologist board, in order to be used on individuals. So you, as a psychologist, you cannot use any test that you design yourself. The tests that have been used are tests that have been accepted by the board of psychologists, meaning they are appropriate because they've been used over and over again and been accepted by the whole fraternity of the psychologist board. What they use questions besides the measurement of MA and CA. There are tests that have been used. Remember, they say mental age and CA. Your child will be given activities for, let's say, for grade 4 to perform. As soon as the child is done by the activities, the psychologist need to mark the activities to check whether the child is good in performing grade 4 activities or whether the child is good in performing grade 6 activities. When you find that your child is only excels in grade 4 activities, meaning your child needs to move to grade 5. It's appropriate that your child needs to move to grade 5. So this is not only done by the psychologist. The psychologist must require the assessment, the cumulative assessment. The cumulative assessment meaning the child activities that have been done throughout the year. The psychologist take the child activities that have been done by the teacher, look at the activities, then concludes based on those activities whether the child is good in 1, 2, 3. I hope I've answered you. So certain series of questions are used to determine your child's competency.